Utah Jazz get their first win of the year over the Chicago Bulls, 135-126. Stars abound. Reliability squares everywhere. Joyousness in Utah. We'll talk about it next on POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
David Locke along with Ron Boone. The Utah Jazz win a basketball game 135-126 against the Chicago Bulls. They led almost the entire way. The Bulls only led by 1 point all night. There were only 4 lead changes. They all happened in the first quarter early in the game. Jazz took the lead by 3 at the end of 1. They led by 7 at the end at the half. It got down and tied up late in the third, but the Jazz never relinquished the lead. There was never a lead change then. And then they blew them out in the fourth quarter behind a lot of great play. And there's a lot to talk about tonight, Ron Boone. I think you want to start with pace of play.
Pace of play, I think, and this is something we've been looking at. And you and I have had discussions. We've watched film on TV, on the plane, and we just could see that when the Jazz push the basketball ahead, it gives everyone a chance to touch the basketball, and there's a tremendous amount of movement. And then, as you pointed out, I mean, they made the adjustment to go back to the pick and roll there in the middle of the floor, and you know, life's good. You know, and you end up making shots.
It's really interesting. The Jazz started the game off-ball screening, getting some action. Cody Williams got some nice curls. There was some stuff there that was working. The Jazz data shows that their pick and roll has not been very good, largely because Keyonte has not been making shots. And so their off-ball game has been much better, so that's where they started. And then midway through the night, they did something interesting. They ran pick and roll, but they didn't. The Jazz have had to subtly change their entire offense because with the injuries to Lauri, Markkanen, and Taylor Hendricks, the Jazz were playing 5 out, but they can't do that anymore. They're playing 2 bigs now at all times, Filipowski and Kessler, and they're playing Collins and Eubanks. So they started playing pick and roll with John Collins while Drew Eubanks was still on the floor. So that is a little different because usually in this day and age, you want to play pick and roll with 3 shooters spread. Instead, they were playing with Eubanks and the dunker. Seemingly should be too crowded. It wasn't. They found a way to make it work.
Well, it's all about coaching. And you see so many coaches make an adjustment. I think the big thing here is when you can make adjustments during the course of a basketball game, according to the personnel that you have and who you're playing against. And Will is obviously all the coaches been searching what can work. I mean, how can we get to the point where we're making the early reads as Will likes to point out, and you heard John Collins even in talk about those reads.
I mean, the coaches said it was Chris Jones at halftime. We saw it at shoot around today. They really tried to. Hey, we're playing 4 out now. We're not doing anything but 4 out, which means 1 big's down the dunker at all times. 5 doesn't take the ball out of bounds anymore. Like you get down the floor, get in the dunker. We play 4 out and play out of that. And they really tried to simplify it. And if the turnover number is any indicator, only 13 turnovers tonight, it is against a team that does not force turnovers. It's worth noting the Bulls were last in the NBA forcing turnovers at 10% of their possessions. But it did seem as though that it was less uncertainty tonight than we've seen in other games.
And I think the reason that, okay, you play against a team like Chicago who does not force a lot of turnovers, and so you get the feeling like when you're in practice and you're working on something new and you're trying to get certain things done out there on the floor. So you play against a team like Chicago who doesn't force a lot of turnovers. Things work. You feel confident in it. The next basketball game, then, you know, hopefully things will start to roll against Milwaukee.
Another team that's struggling will be the 2 teams actually with the worst record in the East and the worst record in the West going head-to-head. Never thought that when we headed to Milwaukee on that one. Let's talk about Walker Kessler tonight. He has been very reliable. He has been our reliability square leader. He had 12 points. He had 16 rebounds. He had 4 fouls tonight. He also, I believe the Bulls shot about 50% at the rim tonight.
Yeah, 32 minutes of play out there on the floor, and he just took care of the paint. I mean, Vukovic had a very good night. Most of those points of his, what did he have? 30, he had 23, most of those coming in the first half. But, and his ability to shoot the 3. So as we talked about at the beginning of the ball game, the Jazz would drop coverage. They wanted Kessler up a little bit higher, but Vukovic is a pretty good 3-point shooter. So in order to protect the rim or give up the 3-point shot, and Vukovic had a pretty good night, but Walker Kessler protected the rim.
All right. John Collins, the headline is going to be 28 points and 13 rebounds. I want to talk about 5 assists because John Collins at times has looked allergic to passing. Yeah. And he had 5 assists tonight. He really he took over this basketball game in that pick and roll we talked about for a period of time. But he also, I think, understood without Lauri Markkanen, without Jordan Clarkson, like, I'm the leading scorer on this team. I got to go to work.
Yeah, 31 minutes, 17 shots. And most of those shots, for the most part, all of those shots seem to be good shots for him. Even the ones that he ends up posting up. What I've been so impressed with him is that he can just flat out rebound. I mean, he can go get the basketball. He had 13 rebounds tonight, three of those coming on the offensive glass. And I know you like the assists.
Yeah, the assists are impressive just because he had almost played without them for a little while there. The other one tonight, by the way, the coaches have been really bothered by the defensive rebounding. The Jazz got 37 of the potential 47 defensive rebounds. The Jazz really quelled all their ails tonight, frankly. And let's go to the one who was having the most high-profile ails, and that was Keyonte George. The shooting had been miserable. The numbers were frightful. 8 of 19 tonight, 6 of 12 from 3. The off-the-bounce three-point shot came back to him, which was his signature last year at 36%, and 13 free throw attempts.
All you got to do with a guy that can shoot the basketball and has a lot of confidence in his shots is see one or two go in. And not so much uncontested, one off the dribble or a catch and shoot or something like that, or in a pressure situation, and then all of a sudden my confidence is high.
9 assists for Key, just 2 turnovers. What did you see in the way he played?
I thought, again, David, by pushing the ball up the floor, that doesn't mean that he's not forcing things out there on the floor. It's forcing the pick and roll in order to make a key play in a tight situation. I mean, by pushing the ball up the floor, pushing it ahead, he's going to get it back sooner or later, you know, in that sequence. And now you make the right reads and you make things happen. So 9 assists and 2 turnovers. 2 turnovers. Not bad.
We had an interesting night tonight because we're courtside tonight, which we don't get to do very often. So we got to really watch Will work. What jumped out to you about Will tonight?
How much he works with his assistants. I mean, how many times do we see 2, maybe 3 assistants? All of them have different roles, and all of them, doing their job, and how well he works with those guys.
He was pretty fiery.
On a couple occasions, yes.
He was not letting them breathe. He knew tonight was in reach, and he knew he had to get it tonight.
Can't let it get away.
I would say he was as much jockey as he was head coach tonight. A little bit. There was some whipping of the horse to get it through the closing stretch.
We've seen many times where he is not gone out and talked to the coaches before he goes and addresses the team. When he just spent out, goes and addressed the team, and when he does that, he's upset about something.
I do want to talk about Cody Williams for a second. Only 1 3-point attempt out of 8 shots. You and I on the plane the other day were talking about him, and I was kind of telling you my thoughts on him out of the scouting report when I watched him in college and why I liked him so much, and that I still had seen kind of every one of those little flashes. But tonight we saw the kind of IQ that we've heard from Will Hardy about how smart he is defensively, how much he understands. He really changed the way he played tonight. 11 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. I mean, he showed a different skill set than he had kind of allocated to our vision prior to tonight.
So they put him in a different situation because of now he's not just sitting in one spot waiting for someone to give him the basketball offensively. Defense, I don't think they're worried about his defensive skills. They really like his progress and the way things have been going for him defensively. They have a lot of confidence in him. But now you can see that he does have some offense. If you put him in the right situation, and it's growing. It's growing for him.
All right, reliability squares. There's a bunch to give out tonight.
I got mine checked off.
All right,
already.
Cody Williams has one from you. Walker Kessler has one from you. Colin Sexton has one for you. Keyonte George has one from you. John Collins has one for you. And you're not giving Drew Eubanks, Johnny Juzang, or Patty Mills any.
Well, I thought that if I was going to give out another one, it would have been Johnny. It's the way he played in that second half. Eubank, he did some good things. But, yeah, if I was going to give out another one, it would be Johnny, especially in that first half.
All right, well, I was going to give out a Eubank, so let's just be really generous tonight.
Okay.
Here are the reliability squares tonight for you, Lacey. Cody Williams, Walker Kessler, Colin Sexton, Keyonte, John Collins, Drew Eubanks, Johnny Juzang.
The whole team. No.
Well, we actually left out a few guys. It kind of feels bad, but feels a little dirty to do that to them. But we can't just be like, it's not like Halloween candy. I mean, like, come on. All right, go vote. Do it correctly. Jazz beat the Chicago Bulls tonight for their first win of the year, 135-126. We have 2 nights off. We'll join you next from Milwaukee as the Jazz will be rested. So will the Bucks, because nobody in the NBA plays tomorrow and nobody in the NBA plays the next day. Have a great night. Jazz win it. There is a new on YouTube. Go to Locked On NBA, the 24/7 national sports channel, or the 24/7 Locked On channel is up and running. Today's the first day. So go grab it. And also Locked On NBA will have a game recap tonight in which they will recap all 15 games of tonight's action. Have a great one. Thanks for tuning in. Super fun. Jazz get the win. Talk to you soon.